Hey everyone, Ronan here, and welcome back to the channel. We got a lot to cover on this trek to get What If Brock Took the Gym Challenge done. But before we get into that, we gotta give a shout out to the patron. So Treeman, thank you very much for the support. And also, for the year of 2024, please help me get the channel to a larger audience. So drop a like and a comment so that way it can fuel the algorithm. And also, if this is your first time here, please don't forget to turn on notifications and hit that subscribe button so that way you'll never miss another upload from the channel. But with all that being said, let's get into What If Brock Took the Gym Challenge, part 17. I hope you enjoy. We begin today's part with Brock and Joe as they're heading down Route 7. They left Spikemouth about a day or two ago, and they have decided to stop for lunch. On their way back to Hammerlock, as this is the final site of the final badge for Brock in the Gallery. However, hunger has gripped the two, so they've decided to set up camp for the time being so that way they can get some food in their bellies and the bellies of their Pokemon. However, they're gonna have an unexpected guest, as it seems somebody has followed them from Spikemouth, that Berserker, and it has made itself known as they just finished up dishing up all the plates for themselves. And Joe is a bit freaked out as the Wildcat appears sitting at the table and it begins scarfing down on all of their plates. You see, Brock, I told you we shouldn't have continued to feed it. Now it's never gonna leave us alone. But Brock just tells him he thinks that it wants to join them on their journey by presenting it with the Pokeball. But the cat just ignores the young boy and continues to stuff its face as much as possible. Brock lets out a sigh as Joe begins to freak out again, telling him that he was right. This thing is never going to leave him alone, and if they don't do something to get rid of it, then they're never going to have any food like its previous trainer. However, Brock tells Joe to calm down. It's not that serious, but these two are going to be interrupted when something happens that isn't going to be forgivable, as the cat begins to eat everything across the table, and it grabs the food from two Pokemon that it shouldn't have, Thwackey and DIDNT. These two begin to pitch a fit as the cat continues to eat. They both find this extremely unacceptable and they begin to attack it. And unfortunately, the only way for Joe and Brock to calm down their Pokemon is for them to be recalled so that way they don't destroy what's left of the food. This is immediately accompanied by Joe gathering up anything else on the table that they had set up, preventing Berserker from going wild and downing everything. No, that's a bad cat, Joe says. You need to stop doing that. That's why your trainer left you. However, Berserker simply seems unfazed by this as it licks its fingers, continuing to look for more food. Brock simply sighs as he grabs some of the food from Joe's hands. He bends down to Berserker and presents it with some of it. Listen, you better head back to Spikemouth, as we're going to be leaving now, and we won't be able to feed you the whole way there. At least there you were able to get a meal wherever you were able to find it. He then pats the cat on the head before standing up and packing their bags back up. Brock and Joe then set off, leaving the steel type to stand there, chewing its food as it watches them fade into the mists of Route 7. Both Brock and Joe spend the next couple of days training. However, this is going to be a rocky event, as the one person that's upset about that entire thing is Thwackey. The fact that Brock recalled it in the gym battle like he did, and then recalled it when it was trying to defend its food from being stolen, isn't sitting too well with the grass type, and it's become to show a cold shoulder towards Brock. The boy tries to talk to Thwackey, but it simply ignores him, in favor of just sitting there, kind of pouting, like it's upset for Brock showing something else favor. And things aren't gonna get that much better when Berserker unfortunately shows up again and begins rummaging through their food. Not again, Joe says. I thought we were rid of this thing. Why does it keep following us? However, Brock just tells Joe to calm down. It's not that big of a deal. All they simply gotta do is make sure they keep the food packed up so that way Berserker can't get it. He then goes on to admit that Joe is right. They probably shouldn't have fed it. But if they stop feeding it, then it's eventually just gonna get tired of trying with no success and it's gonna leave them alone. But unfortunately, as the two boys are talking, someone else thinks it's time to fight. And that's Thwackey, as it has its eyes locked on Berserker as it's rummaging through everything trying to find any morsel of food. This causes the grass type to immediately begin to see red once more as it attacks the steel type in a blind rage. However, Berserker seems unfazed by any of its attacks, as a branch poke and a razor leaf seem to do nothing to it, merely bouncing off. This causes Thwackey to begin to lose control of itself as it begins to rampage and intends to smack the cat with a double hit. However, the first one simply glides off the cat's back as it's rummaging through another one of the bags, while Joe is struggling to take it from the feline. and the second double hit comes crashing down with more intensity than the first one as it slams into the ground, missing Berserker while Joe jerked it away. This causes the ground below the hit to begin to crack as a pink aura begins to spill through. What happens next is something that both Brock and Joe were not prepared for, as not only Thwackey but Berserker begin to Dynamax as they take on a gigantic form. This is a problem, Brock says, to which Joe replies, "You think?" as Thwackey goes on an all-out tangent trying to cause any damage that it can to Berserker, while the feline simply stands there trying to do whatever it can to satiate its now monstrous hunger. It's even gotten to the point that in its Dynamax form, Berserker begins to chew on large branches that it finds, anything to fill its empty belly. But this is a blessing in disguise somewhat, as Berserker isn't really rampaging, it's just kind of looking around clueless trying to find some food. But there is a flip side to this coin, as Thwackey is not happy that this thing has not only interrupted everything that's been going on today, but it has also decided to ignore the grass monkey in favor of trying to stuff its face. Thwackey is a mon of pride, and it doesn't like the inherent disrespect that Berserker's obliviousness to the entire situations that it's caused, and this has caused it to start to see red. And at this point, it's Thwackey that begins to rampage, attacking Berserker, who just simply brushes it off as all of its grass types don't really affect its steel typing, and then rampaging throughout everything else, destroying the surrounding area and potentially bringing some harm to local wildlife. Brock and Joe look on as they're not really sure what to do. It's the same instance that happened with Dreadnought only days earlier, and the two are kind of at a loss, but they know they have to do something, and there's really only one thing that they can do, and that's try to battle Thwackey, though it's not going to be easy as the grass monkey is seeing red again, rampaging about, and unfortunately, the only one that's going to really be able to stand against it is Brock. Both of the boys ready their Pokeballs as Joe sends in Sableye and Dreadnought, while Brock sends in Gyarados and Colossal. As the four mons pop from their ball, Brock readies the Dynamax band as he chooses Colossal as the one that he's going to Dynamax. Initiating the process, Brock recalls the Pokemon as the ball grows larger before it takes on its Gigantamax form, or what Brock thought was its Gigantamax form. As Colossal pops from the ball, it appears to be normal, and Brock doesn't really understand it. It looks nothing like the Colossal he battled at Cordy's gym, but unfortunately this has caused an unnecessary distraction for the boy, as this moment of lack of focus for Brock is going to cause Thwackey to get the upper hand on Colossal, as it was awaiting for Brock to give it a command, and Thwackey is able to use a Max Overgrow to cause some serious damage to the rock type. Luckily, its fire typing is able to mitigate the super effectiveness of the move. It's just that the Max Overgrow was completely unblocked. This snaps Brock out of his trance, causing the boy to order a Max Flare to try to mitigate any damage that Thwackey can put out. Colossal begins to surge with energy as fire spouts from its back as it surrounds Thwackey, trying to encase the grass monkey. But unfortunately, when it's in this kind of primal state, it doesn't really heed things like pain. As the fire begins to burn at it, it merely pushes through as it jumps on Colossal, trying to attack it with everything that it has. And while they're both Gigantamax, Colossal does still hold somewhat of a significant size over Thwackey, though the grass monkey's rampage is not making it easy, as Colossal's range of movement in this transformation isn't exactly that of gracefulness, and Thwackey's able to easily climb around it, hitting it from the back and from the sides, where Colossal can't really put up any type of defense. This results in the rock type taking a serious beating, as Brock throws commands, telling it to use things like Max Flare, or a Max Strike, or even a Max Rockfall, but nothing's really able to get through, as Thwackey just merely dodges it, being so close to Colossal. This causes the walking pile of coals to begin to get frustrated, and now that its judgment is being clouded, it's missing its attacks more and more, allowing Thwackey to land a decisive blow with another Max Overgrow that knocks out the Mon, leaving Brock and Joe with little options. The only way they're going to get through this is if they can run out the Dynamax transformation on Thwackey, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like they're going to have any way to do that. Brock even takes to trying to ask Berserker for any type of help, as it it is technically the same size as Thwackey, but the cat merely is just looking around in a dazed and confused state, as all it thinks about is food. But unfortunately, this is a bad thing, as now that there's nothing to draw Thwackey's attention, and it's completely lost any type of reason, it sees off in the distance a city with large buildings, a place where it can let out all of its aggression. Hammerlock. As Thwackey begins to take a step towards the settlement, Brock immediately realizes where it's trying to head, and he does whatever it can, even trying to recall it. But unfortunately, its Pokeball is unable to handle the power of the Dynamax transformation that it's undertaking, so it merely fails in the attempt to try and recall it. This leaves both boys with all of their hopes completely shattered, as they can do nothing but watch Thwackey as it walks off. But luckily, they're going to have a bit of a guardian angel, as Brock had mentioned previously that the gym leaders and the champion of the Galar region were out and about trying to maintain all of these random Dynamax phenomenons, and none other than Brock's old mentor, Peony, is on the scene, as he was able to spot Thwackey off in the distance, and he realized that it could make its way to Hammerlock, so he preemptively Dynamaxed his ace Pokemon, Copperajah. And as Brock and Joe are heading trying to do whatever they can to stop Thwackey, all they see is a giant steel elephant running in the opposite direction straight for them, as it collides directly with Thwackey with a max steel spike. The power of this move is enough to one-shot the gorilla, as it is sent into a mountainside with enough force to knock it out, forcing it to revert to its normal state. Brock and Joe arrive just as its transformation recedes, and Thwackey lays in a crater with spirals in its eyes, as G-Max Copperajah lets out a giant scream from its trunk, signifying its dominance in this battle and its ability to make an easy work of Thwackey. And right behind it is its trainer, Peony, as he spots both Brock and Joe, as the boy recalls Thwackey before any other problems proceed. "So that was your Pokemon," Peony says, to which Brock acknowledges, shaking his head. "Yeah, unfortunately, it got exposed to one of those random power spots that had been flaring up, and it went on a rampage, attacking everything in sight." "I see," Peony says. "Well, I'm sorry for the excessive force, but it looked like it didn't have any reason left in it, so I felt like the only way to deal with it was gonna be to knock it out." Brock nods, understanding that that was the only course of action they had available to them at the current time. It's here that the mountain-sized Berserker walks up behind the two, as Peony begins to take a defensive stance with Copperajah, as they prepare to engage in battle with this. However, Brock tells him to stop. Even though Berserker Dynamaxed, it's not any threat. The only thing that it wants is food, as the giant steel cat sits down and picks up a tree, beginning to gnaw on it as it's trying to fill its belly once more. Peony finds this entire exchange odd. He's never seen a Pokemon like that before. Brock explains that it's been following them since Spikemouth, and just like Thwackey, it got exposed to the power spot, so it took on a transformation. However, its only source of reason seems to be governed by its hunger, and it just looks for food. Not aggressively, merely like pillaging. "Well, it's certainly an odd Pokemon," Peony says, "but either way, can you guys show me where this power spot is? I have to tag it so we can get it cordoned off, that way no other Pokemon can get exposed to it and be turned into a Dynamax without us knowing about it." It's here that Brock and Joe lead the champion down the road just a ways, as they show him where the new power spot has located, and it's right in the middle of the road. Peony rubs the back of his head with a sigh. While the power spots popping up have been a problem, the fact that they sometimes appear in random roads make them even more of an issue, as that's where people and Pokemon tend to walk, and that's when it becomes a major problem. The champion then picks up his Rotom phone and immediately makes a call to the Macros Cosmos organization, telling them that he's found another power spot, so they need to send somebody to take care of it right away. As the call is completed, Peony turns back to Brock and Joe, asking how the two have been doing. Brock says he's actually earned 7 of the 8 Galar badges, and that's the reason why he was traveling down this route. He was trying to get back to Hammerlock so he can challenge the final gym of the region for his final badge. Peony lets out a laugh. This excites the champion. He knew that Brock would eventually make it here, and he tells the boy, well, the gym leader has actually returned to the city, as most of the Dynamax transformations have gotten under control, so they've resumed their temporary control over the gym. Temporary, Brock says. What do you mean by temporary? Well, we had a gym leader there before, but they decided to step down. So we asked somebody else in the region who was a former gym leader to take it over. So they're just standing in until we can find a replacement for it. But that doesn't mean that they're any less tough than a regular gym leader. As a matter of fact, she's one of the toughest trainers I've ever come across. This immediately gets Brock excited, as he can't wait to get back to Hammerlock so he can have his final battle. Peony tells the two that he would actually like to watch Brock's gym battle, and how about this? Once the people get here to take care of the power spot, they'll head back to the city together, and after they get some good rest and their Pokemon checked up on, they'll head to the gym, and Peony can introduce him to the gym leader. Brock is all in favor for this, and it's not long that they have to wait before the organization that Peony referred to as Macrocosmos shows up. A bunch of clowns and sunglasses, from what Joe calls them, as they begin to cordon off the whole area. With Peony debriefing the entire group on what's happening, he is now free to set off, as he tells Joe and Brock they need to get going. If they hurry, they can make it into Hammerlock just after sundown. So, with a sense of urgency in each step, the three take off, heading west down the route. A few hours later, as the sun sets behind the mountains of the Galar region, the three find themselves in the city of Hammerlock. This place is a lot different at night, Joe comments. The lights really give it a royal ambiance, to which Peony laughs. Yeah, this city used to be the actual castle for the leaders of the Galar region back in the ancient times, and they had a thing for regal and ambiance. But that's beside the point. Let me show you guys where the Pokemon Center is. But Brock tells them that they already know it where it's at because they've been here before. However, Peony points out that Hammerlock is a big city, and there's more than one in the entire place. And the one that Brock and Joe are thinking of is probably on the western half. They actually have one on the eastern half over here, and it's pretty close to the gym, so it'll be the ideal place for them to bed down for the night. Both Brock and Joe thank Peony for the information, and the champion walks them to the Pokemon Center. A couple of minutes later, they find themselves just outside, with Berserker oddly on their trail. Peony points out that the cat is still behind them, to which both Brock and Joe hang their heads, as they know that it's there. And the only reason that the cat is following them is because it knows that they're going to have food soon. However, they're going to have to figure that out later, as they need to get inside because Brock needs to get the wacky checked out. Peony tells the boy that he'll be here bright and early. He's got some stuff that he's got to take care of inside of the city, and he'll see them in the morning. To which Brock nods, saying that he can't wait for a chance to battle for his 8th badge, and he thanks Peony for all their help today. It's here that the two separate, and Brock and Joe head inside. However, once they get inside, they're going to be met with somebody that they have not seen in a while, and that's Brock's dear old self-proclaimed rival, Leon. The boy is at the front desk picking up his Pokemon, however his demeanor isn't his normal happy-go-lucky brainless self, as Joe points out. He actually looks like he is frustrated, to which Brock notices right away. However, they're going to have to walk past him as they need to get to where he's at, and this causes a brief encounter between the two, to which Leon, even though normally he feels like he has to battle Brock at any time to prove some sort of point to himself, is not his normal self. Even though he acknowledges Brock, he doesn't challenge him to a battle right away. He actually merely just looks at them and then walks off, to which our two heroes both find this odd. However, there's nothing they can do about that. If Leon doesn't want to talk to them, then they can't force him. So, Brock and Joe both go ahead with engaging with Nurse Joy, asking the young lady to make sure that their Pokemon are in tip-top shape, as Brock has a very important gym battle that he has to take care of in the morning. Nurse Joy tells them that she is happy to, and to come back within the next hour or so, as her workload is kind of light tonight. With this, Brock and Joe proceed to the cafeteria as they want to get some food before they head to bed. But unfortunately, the two boys are going to have an unwanted guest, as Berserker makes itself known, once again standing at the edge of the table with drool coming out of its mouth as it eyes down their food. But luckily, this time both Brock and Joe were prepared, as they both grabbed 2 plates of the same thing that they were having. That way they could just give it to the steel cat, so that way they can kind of eat in peace and reflect on the events of the day. As Berserker sits on the ground next to the table and proceeds to eat like a garbage disposal, trying to grind silverware and plates, the two discuss their next course of action, as Joe brings up what Pierce told them about the Galar Championship tournament. It's here that they reflect back to that conversation they had after Brock had won his 7th badge. Pierce had told them that all the gym leaders in Galar are also competing in the tournament. They do every year, along with the champion. It's to ensure the best competition possible, and they even get some outsiders, ones that were able to to complete the gym challenge within the time frame before the next tournament. So they can expect that there's a good chance that not only will Brock have to face Pierce in a full 6-on-6, but any of the other gym leaders as well, which if Brock had trouble beating any one of them using only 2 or 3 Pokemon, a full 6-on-6 battle could be something that he's not prepared for. Now we've moved back to the current day with Joe asking Brock how he plans to deal with that. He doesn't even have a 6th Pokemon, to which Brock acknowledges this, saying that it is a bit of a problem. But Joe offers a solution, saying that Brock could use any one of his Pokemon. However, the boy declines. He doesn't want to have to rely on Joe to cover his back every time he needs something. He's gonna try and find a 6th Pokemon, even though he knows he's got to do it soon. But not to worry, let's focus on the here and now and try to get the 8th gym badge of the region. Brock smiles. Joe acknowledges this with a head shake, as Berserker lets out a loud belch as it lays on the ground next to the table, with both Brock and Joe looking at it, wondering exactly what they're gonna do about the hobo cat. An hour later, Brock and Joe find themselves at the main counter of the Pokemon Center, with Berserker nowhere in sight as it's soliciting food from everybody else that's in the cafeteria. They pick up their Pokemon and then proceed to their room for the night, to where both Brock and Joe lay in their bed. Joe once again finds himself not able to sleep as he's thinking about everything that he learned about Sableye and trying to get his Pokemon the ability to Dynamax, while Brock, on the other hand, he has a couple more pressing issues. The first one is the Wacky and the outbursts that it's been having. They've been getting worse over the last couple of weeks, and he's not sure what he can do about it. And then there's the more pressing issue of, why didn't Colossal have the same form that Gordy's did? Brock is gonna have to figure that out, because it could come into play, especially when it comes to battling the 8th gym, or even worse, battling in the Champion League of the Galar region. However, the boy is just gonna have to be left with his thoughts as the night fades on and both him and Joe attempt to get whatever sleep that they can. This leads into the next morning with Joe and Brock both up bright and early as they enter the main corridor of the Pokemon Center and are greeted by Nurse Joy as well as Berserker, who has been soliciting some free food from whoever would be in the cafeteria. Nurse Joy tells Brock that he needs to wrangle in his Pokemon, as if he doesn't, then she's gonna have to kick them out of the center. However, Brock informs Joy that Berserker's not his. It's an abandoned Pokemon that just followed him from Spikemouth. He's sorry that everybody's feeling uncomfortable around it, and it does have a sort of smell to it, but there's not really anything he can do about it. He's been trying to get rid of the cat for a while now, and because it doesn't want to be caught, there's not really anything else he can do. But when he comes back from his gym battle, he will see about what he can do to try and solve this problem permanently. With that, both Joe and Brock meet Peony outside, as the champion is eager to see Brock in an actual official gym battle, considering he hasn't gotten the chance to do so. And he's eager to see his young protege and how much he's improved over the time that they've been apart. With Brock and Joe both nodding for Peony to lead the way, the champion leads them towards the gym, commenting that the Dynamax problems that they've been having as of recently have been rather quiet today. So hopefully it'll stay like that, so that way they can have a good day and Brock can have a good battle. It doesn't take much time for our heroes and the champion to end up at the Hammerlock gym, and just as Peony had commented, it does look exactly like a castle, though it's been modified slightly over the years and how technology has advanced a little bit more, but it still maintains that regal feel. This is where Peony tells them they need to get inside quick, as he believes that the leader is currently engaged in a gym battle with somebody else. And this is somebody that Brock comments he may know all too well, as they walk inside to see just this. On the battlefield, they see a fully evolved starter of the Kanto region, Charizard, facing off against a Pokemon that Brock has actually seen before that is also native to the Kanto region, a Pokemon known as Lapras. And at the command of these two is the person we know all too well as Leon, as he demonstrates his mastery of his fully evolved starter by ordering Charizard to use a Flare Blitz. However, the other person is somebody that Brock and Joe are unfamiliar with. A blonde woman dressed in what appears to be a white snow overcoat with a hat on her head is giving commands to the Lapras. This is where Peony informs Brock this is the current substitute leader of the gym. Her name is Melanie, and she specializes in the ice typing. Joe comments that she looks familiar, to which Peony laughs. Well, she should. She's the mother of one of the gym leaders of Galar, the one in Sirchester, known as Gordy. This gets Brock's attention. I can see the resemblance now, he says. However, that's not exactly the main focal point of this, as Melanie demonstrates her mastery of her typing, being able to one-shot Leon in the process, as his Charizard falls to a Hydro Pump. The boy just hangs his head. Not again, he says, as he recalls his starter. Melanie tells him he's getting better, but he's going to have a lot more work to do if he wishes to beat her. He's going to have to find a new level of power. Leon thanks the blonde for her input and the chance to battle her once again, before they both turn to see that they have a small audience. While Leon and Melanie both know Peony, only Leon knows who Brock is, to which the boy doesn't say anything to Brock, as he still has the same aura about him from the previous day, and now Brock understands what it is. It's because he's lost. However, Leon does choose to engage with Peony, as there's one very important reason why he does so, and it's the fact that Peony is actually Leon's sponsor, and it's here that the champion inquires how Leon is doing. Has he been able to crack the formula on how to beat Melanie yet? To which the boy says he hasn't been able to. It's been 3 tries now, and he's barely managed to take out one of her Pokemon, but as soon as her Lapras hits the field, it's game over. Overhearing the fact that Leon has lost to this gym leader 3 separate times kinda puts Brock on edge. She must be some sort of battling monster, he thinks to himself. However, this thought is interrupted when Melanie laughs, as she asks if Peony has another student of his that would like to challenge her to a battle today. Her Lapras barely got a chance for a warm-up. Peony laughs a deep bellow as he says, yep, this is Brock, and he has come all the way here to earn his 8th badge, just as Leon has. He's hoping to be able to crack the code on how to beat you today. To which Melanie turns to the boy, laughing, asking if he's been able to earn any other badges besides hers. Brock comfortably confirms that he's earned 7 out of the 8 Galar badges, as he shows them off to her one by one. Oh, so you managed to beat Gordy. Well, he has been getting a little lazy as of late, but that's still a good accomplishment nonetheless. I guess I'm gonna have to do some training with him in order to whip him back in shape. This comment gives Brock a strange feeling. For some reason, Melanie reminds Brock of his mom and the way she used to interact with him and his many siblings. But here, he's gonna find out exactly why he gets this feeling, as Melanie tells the group that she has 5 other kids, and they're all younger than Gordy, as he's the oldest. She expects more and a better example out of him, but it looks like he's slacking in that department, so she's gonna have to shape him up. And that is something that his mom would say to him when he was doing things that he wasn't supposed to be doing. However, this tranquil thought of his is going to be interrupted with Melanie asking if he's ready to start. After all, she is a very busy person, but she still likes a good battle, and she hopes that Brock can give her the challenge she's looking for. The boy immediately comes back to reality, saying that he is ready for his gym battle. How many Pokemon will they use? Melanie tells him that they're going to be using 4 Pokemon, and it's going to be in a tag team style format. However, Brock doesn't understand this. He's never really heard of a tag team style format as far as an official gym battle before. But Melody is quick to explain this, as she informs him that they'll both use 2 Pokemon at a time, and he can alternate between any 4 of his choices. And the battle will be over when one side is out of all their Pokemon, just like a regular battle. It's just you have to be twice as vigilant, as you need to be able to command both of your Pokemon at the same time. Beginning to understand the rules, Brock says that he thinks he can handle it. So when can they get started? Melanie says right now, as she would like the chance to really test her Pokemon. Brock nods as the 2 trainers head to their side of the fields, with Joe standing next to Leon and Peony, as the rival makes an offhanded comment that he's not going to make it past her first team. While this comment gets to Joe a little bit, he wonders if Leon is actually right, but he reserves his judgment for the time being, choosing to believe in his friend. It's here that we follow up with Brock and Melanie as they stand across from each other in the battlefield. The 2 waste no time getting to action, as Brock has a strategy that he thinks is going to work. After all, if she's an Ice-type trainer, that means that some of her Pokemon may be weak to the Grass typing and the Electric typing. So, even though it's going to be a risk, he decides to start things off strong with Galvantula and Thwackey as they emerge from the wall. Melanie finds these choices interesting. However, she doesn't say anything right away, as her 2 choices hit the field. It's first gonna be the one that she saw battling in Leon, Lapras, and another Pokemon that Brock has never seen before, a Pokemon known as Frostmoth. It's here that Melanie makes the comment that she won't be able to swap out Pokemon, while Brock can, so be sure to use that to his advantage. She wants the best challenge that he can offer, to which Brock isn't going to hold anything back, as the signal to start the first battle is set to begin. Melanie graciously gives Brock the first move, to which he doesn't waste, calling for 2 moves, a Discharge and a Razor Leaf. They're both aimed for Lapras in an attempt attempt to take it out by using its water typing to their advantage. However, this isn't going to get the chance, as quickly Frostmoth is able to put up a defense by using an Icy Wind that is able to overpower the two moves, striking both Galvantula and Thwackey. And unfortunately, this is going to send Thwackey into its ever so famous rage that has become known for, as it begins to completely disregard Brock's commands as the boy tells it to settle down. This throws it into a fit as it begins to attack uncontrollably, and the target of its rage is going to be Frostmoth, as it makes every attempt to land a double hit or a Razor Leaf on the bug. However, it is able to gracefully dodge each attack as Thwackey is unfocused. All the while, Galvantula and Brock are just standing there puzzled on what to do, but Melanie, she is fully centered as her Pokemon are prepared for a double team battle, as this is their wheelhouse, and she's able to easily take advantage of this by calling for an Ice Beam from Lapras that strikes Galvantula, one-shotting it in the process. And Frostmoth is able to pretty much do the same thing with Thwackey, as it uses its rage and lack of focus to one-shot the grass type with a Bug Buzz. This leaves both Brock's Pokemon cratered with spirals in its eyes in the middle of the battlefield, and the boy contemplating what he's gonna do next. This causes Melanie to sigh. I was hoping for a better challenge, but it looks like you're just like the other ones that I've gotten to face lately, not quite ready for my level of expertise. However, I'm sure with training you'll eventually get there. As Brock recalls his first two choices, he declares that he's not going to be left out, as he readies the Pokeballs of the two Pokemon that he knows can do something. As he declares, Colossal, Gyarados, your time to battle. As his two strongest Pokemon hit the battlefield, the two are not used to sharing space with each other, as this is the first occurrence. I mean, yeah, they know of each other, but they've never had to battle together, which is a point of concern for the two. However, Brock is their trainer, and even though the two aren't exactly the best of friends, they're going to do what they can to make sure that they obey the boy's orders to the letter. All the while, Melanie is actually excited about this choice, the fully evolved starter of her son, and a well-known powerhouse of a water type in Gyarados. This could in fact actually be the battle she is looking for. However, she's going to have to put that theory to the test, and she does so by giving Brock the first move once again, to which the boy wastes no time, as he tells Colossal to use a move that it's learned within the last recent weeks of training with Joe, something called a Heat Crash, and its target is one that is simple, Frostmoth. While on the other hand, Gyarados is going to use the coverage that this move is going to provide to execute a Dragon Dance in order to increase its attack and speed. That's pretty smart, Melanie thinks to herself. However, it's not going to be good enough, and I'm going to show him exactly why. Now, Lapras, use Surf. At the command of this, Brock immediately recognizes it, as his mother's Blastoise has used this move several times. However, the way it's executed is something that he is not familiar with, as it's used as a defensive wall to mitigate any damage from his Heat Crash, saving Frostmoth in the process, allowing it to counteract with a Feather Dance. This is going to be very bad for both Brock and his Pokemon, as Feather Dance is going to increase both Frostmoth's and Lapras' speed, and Ice types with their kind of power, as well as speed behind them, is going to be a bit troubling for the boy. However, he's not going to let them get the best of him, as he has an idea. It's here that Gyarados wraps up its first Dragon Dance, to which Brock tells it that they're going to go on the offense now, telling it to use a Hydro Pump, which causes everyone to question what Brock is attempting. However, they're going to be immediately clued into what he's thinking, as he orders Gyarados to use the Hydro Pump on Colossal. This immediately causes Gyarados to question the trainer, as it thinks that Brock may have gone mad. However, Colossal can see what its trainer is up to, and it encourages his teammate to do so. Reluctantly, Gyarados hits the rock type with the Hydro Pump that is 4 times effective. However, this has a really good side effect for it, as before, when it was hit with the Surf, it didn't get any type of stat increase from its ability because of the Heat Crash preventing it from being actually hit with water. However, now it's directly affected by the Hydro Pump, and this is going to turn its speed on to 11, allowing it to charge in with another Heat Crash. However, Melanie isn't going to let this connect, as she orders another Surf to prevent it from damaging Frostmoth. But this time, Colossal's target isn't Frostmoth, it's Lapras, as it begins to charge through, outpacing the Surf and striking the Loch Ness monster with all of the weight that it has behind it. This causes it to cry out in pain, and immediately gets both Peony and Leon's attention, while Melanie, on the other hand, is just giddy that she's going to have a chance to actually see this in action. However, she's going to have to be quick, as Gyarados is on the attack, with Brock ordering a Dragon Pulse. However, this is where the flaw and the cracks in Brock's armor are going to start to be revealed, as the ice typing is famous for being strong against one type in particular, and that's the dragon type. And while none of his Pokemon are actually dragons, the fact that Dragon Pulse is a dragon type move, it is able to quickly be overpowered by an ice beam from Lapras that sends it careening back at Gyarados, freezing the serpent in the process. This causes Brock to freeze himself, as he had never seen an ice beam with that much power before. And this is where Frostmoth is going to be able to use its powers to its advantage. Using a Bug Buzz, while not super effective against Colossal, it is going to be enough to cause a decent amount of damage, as Lapras then capitalizes by using an Icy Wind that strikes it as well. While this isn't super effective damage, it is going to have an effect that Brock isn't going to realize until it's too late, as he calls for an Ancient Power. However, he immediately begins to notice that Colossal is moving slower, and he doesn't understand why. However, Melanie is going to be quick to inform him of that exact reason, as she calls for an Ice Beam Icy Wind combo from her 2 Pokemon, which immediately strike Colossal. While this isn't enough to freeze the rock type, it is enough to have a noticeable effect that Brock can see this time, as the embers that normally burn in the coals on its back slowly begin to die, causing Colossal to move at a slow pace, completely canceling all the stat increases it had gotten to its speed from the Hydro Pump it had taken from Gyarados. And Colossal is unable to execute the Ancient Power before it is struck by another Surf and another Icy Wind, bringing this battle to a close. Well, I guess that's all I can expect from you, but it was a good try. You got a lot farther than I thought you would on your first attempt. But anyway, I hope to see you again, Brock, Melanie says, as she recalls her 2 Pokemon, before telling Peony that she has some things she's going to take care of, in preparation for the gym leader when they actually come to take over. She hopes to see Brock at least one more time before the new gym leader is here, but until then, she's going to be taking her leave. Peony waves as he tells Melanie that it was a good battle, and he hopes to see her again soon. This just leaves Brock standing there, complete stunned about his loss, while Colossal and Gyarados are both unable to move, one knocked out and one frozen. You see, I told you, wouldn't make it past her first team, Leon says. This causes Peony to stand up as he grabs Leon by the wrists and walks out to where Brock is, with Leon complaining the entire time. Well, you two, it seems that you're unable to beat the gym leader here in Hammerlock. To which Brock says he wasn't expecting her to be that strong. And Leon seconds this by saying he doesn't think there is any way to actually beat Melanie. However, Peony seems to disagree, as he thinks that it's time that these two learn to work together. And this is where we're going to leave things for now. So tell me, how did you feel about this part? Do you think that Brock is going to actually be able to catch Hobo Cat Berserker? How did you feel about me making Melanie the 8th gym leader of the Galar region for the time being? And what about this secret training that Peony says that he has? And Brock and Leon learning to work together, what's that going to be about? Let me know in the comments down below. And that's all we had for today's video. I really appreciate you guys stopping by to watch all the way to the end, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. If you guys really enjoy my content, consider following me on some of my other platforms like Discord, where you can get to know other people who are interested in what ifs, or on Twitter, where I post sometimes behind the scenes updates. Or if you want to help the channel grow a little bit extra, why don't you consider donating like the people right here have, as whatever you could offer could help us get to a larger audience by helping us get new videos done, or some of the projects that we've been more custom art is getting kind of expensive. So we want to make sure that we have the funds to do that. But with all that being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed everything, and I will see you in the next video.